The meeting ended, not with celebration, but with purpose. 3 months. That was all they had. And so, the world moved. Month 1, the awakening of war. The first month was chaos. Organized chaos. Across Skyrim, every hold transformed. Blacksmiths worked day and night. Steel rang like thunder. Armor was forged in bulk. Blades sharpened without rest. At Nova Pax, the heart of it all, the forges never went cold. Under the guidance of Ebony Warrior and the newly appointed commanders, training began. Relentless. Brutal. Effective. Recruits became soldiers. Soldiers became warriors. Delphine and Esbern expanded intelligence networks. Spies spread across Tamriel. Every whisper tracked. Every movement noted. Above Skyrim, dragons ruled the skies. All 26 of them, led by Odahviing and Skyrend. They patrolled endlessly. No ship. No army. No scout. Went unseen. At Windhelm, ships rose from the docks. Massive. Built for war. Hammerfell shipwrights worked beside Nords, combining knowledge, improving designs. Faster. Stronger. Deadlier. And in the south, Hammerfell mobilized. Armies gathered. Disciplined. Battle-ready. Morrowind followed. Slower, but steady. Their forces prepared with precision. And at the center of it all, the Dragonborn moved constantly. Training. Planning. Leading. A god. But still fighting like a man. Month 2, the rise of an army. By the second month, the chaos became structure. Platoons formed. Commanders took control. Murrock trained his forces differently. More aggressive. More powerful. More dangerous. The Ebony Warrior pushed soldiers beyond their limits. No weakness tolerated. No hesitation allowed. Delphine's forces became elite. Vast. Precise. Deadly. Meanwhile, the gods watched. And guided. Stendar healed the wounded. Kynareth blessed the land, ensuring crops grew fast. Zenithar strengthened trade and production. And Talos walked among the soldiers, speaking to them, inspiring them, not as a distant god, but as a warrior who once stood where they stood. Morale soared. Fear faded. At Nova Pax, the city expanded rapidly. More homes finished. Barracks filled. Stables doubled in size. War beasts trained. The snow elves adapted further, fighting alongside Nords. Old hatred. Gone. Replaced with unity. And then, reports began coming in. The Thalmor were moving. Ships gathering. Armies assembling. Magic being prepared. The war was no longer coming. It was forming. Month 3, the edge of war. The final month was the hardest. Because now, everyone knew. It was close. Too close. Training reached its peak. No breaks. No mercy. Only preparation. Weapons stockpiled. Armor distributed. Supplies secured. Forts across Skyrim. Occupied. Reinforced. Ready. At sea. The fleet was complete. Skyrim's ships. Hammerfell's fleet. Combined. A force to rival any navy. And the skis. The dragons gathered. Not scattered anymore, but organized. Divided into strike groups. Each with a purpose. Each ready. At Nova Pax, the army stood assembled. Thousands. Disciplined. United. The Dragonborn stood before them, silent, watching. Beside him, Murok, the ebony warrior, Delphine, Esbern, the commanders, and behind them, the gods, all of them, even Akatosh, watching, waiting. The final report. A scout arrived, breathless, shaken. They're coming. Silence. The Thalmor fleet has left port. A pause. They're heading for Skyrim. No panic. No fear. Only readiness. The Dragonborn stepped forward, finally speaking. Then it begins. Above, dragons roared. Loud. Powerful. Across the land. Soldiers moved. Positions taken. Weapons drawn. And as the sun began to set, Tamriel held its breath. Because in just days, war would arrive. And when it did, it would face not a divided land, but a united force, led by a god, and backed by dragons, and gods themselves. The war did not begin with a roar. It began with a mistake. Year of war, the clash for Tamriel. Month 1, the failed invasion. The Thalmor came as expected. A massive fleet. Ships stretching across the horizon. Battle mages standing ready. Storms forming at their command. But they never reached Skyrim. Above the sea, a shadow fell. Then another. Then hundreds. Dragons. Over 200 of them. Led by Odahviing, Skyrend, and the Dragonborn's inner circle. Fire rained from the sky. Lightning shattered ships. Frost froze entire fleets in place. The sea itself turned into a graveyard. Ships burned. Others sank. Some fled. The Thalmor retreated. Before even touching land. The war had begun. Months to for the counterstrike. The Dragonborn did not wait. Push them back. And they did. The united forces moved as one. Skyrim's army. Hammerfell's warriors. Morrowind's forces. The Empire under Emperor Titus Mede II. Companions of Whiterun. Stormcloaks under Ulfric's Stormcloak. They struck coastal Thalmor outposts. Destroyed supply lines. Cut off reinforcements. Dragons dominated the skies. No Thalmor scout survived long enough to report back. Murok led devastating assaults, using both power and strategy. The ebony warrior broke enemy lines like they were nothing. Delphine's blades executed precise strikes, removing commanders before battles even began. By the end of month 4, the Thalmor were no longer advancing. They were defending. Months 5-8, the war expands. The Thalmor adapted. They stopped fighting like an army and began fighting like hunters. Ambushes. Magic traps. Elite justiciar units. Battles became brutal. Costly. Even dragons began falling. Not many, but enough to be felt. The Dragonborn changed tactics. Platoons led by commanders. Kael Draven. Seraphine Volleys. Darius Blackthorn. Aelthir Snowborn. Each led specialized forces. Each one battles in different ways. The war spread beyond Skyrim. Into disputed territories. Into the sea. Into the skies. No place was untouched. Months 9-11, the breaking point. The Thalmor made one final attempt. A full-scale invasion. Everything they had. This time, they reached land. The largest battle in history began. Outside Skyrim's borders, thousands clashed. Magic tore the sky apart. Dragons fought in massive aerial battles. Claw against spell. Fire against lightning. General Tullius commanded the center. Ulfric led the northern charge. Hammerfell warriors shattered flanks. Morrowind mages countered Thalmor magic. And at the center, the Dragonborn, fighting like a force of nature. With Murok beside him, 2 Dragonborns, fighting as one. The Thalmor line broke. And this time, they did not recover. Month 12, the fall of the Thalmor. The war ended where it began. At the sea, the remaining Thalmor forces attempted to flee. But there was nowhere left to go. The Alliance surrounded them. On land, at sea, in the air, the Dragonborn gave one final order. End it. And they did. The Thalmor were destroyed. Not just defeated, erased as a power. The War of the Gods, happening alongside. While mortals fought below, another war raged above reality itself. The gods, led by Akatosh and Talos, faced the Daedric princes, Hermias Mora, Mehrunes Dagon, Molag Bal, and others. This was not a war of armies, but of existence itself. Realms clashed, time bent, reality fractured. Stendarr clashed with Molag Bal, mercy versus domination. Talos battled Mehrunes Dagon, order against destruction. Akatosh faced Hermias Mora, time versus knowledge. Entire Daedric realms trembled. Some were shattered, others sealed away. By the end, the Daedric princes were not destroyed, but weakened, forced back, unable to interfere. The end of the 2 wars. Both won. The Thalmor, gone. The Daedric threat, contained. Tamriel stood, united, peaceful, and at the center of it all, the Dragonborn, now truly, what the gods had declared him to be, the god of peace and prosperity. And for the first time, in all of history, there was no war left to fight, only a future to build. Peace had settled across Tamriel. For 3 long months. No war, no battles, no enemies rising. And for most, it was everything they had fought for. But for him, it was quiet. Too quiet. The restlessness of a warrior. In the great halls of Nova Pax, the Dragonborn sat upon his throne. Reports came. Progress updates. Trade routes. Rebuilding efforts. And he listened. He ruled. He guided. But his hand rested too often on a blade that had not been drawn. This isn't me. Even as a god, even as High King, he was still a warrior. And warriors did not sit idle. A new lead. It was Isrin's name. That changed everything. Spoken by a passing blade. There's an old fort, southeast of Riffin. A group hunting vampires. The Dragonborn looked up. Interested. Vampires. The blade nodded. They call themselves the Dawnguard. A pause. Then, for the first time in weeks, the Dragonborn smiled. The decision. That same day, he stood before his council. Delphine frowned immediately. You're leaving. Temporarily. Murok crossed his arms. To hunt vampires. The Dragonborn nodded. I need to fight. A pause. I'm getting rusty. The ebony warrior smirked slightly. Finally, Delphine sighed. You're a god now. The Dragonborn looked at her. I'm still a warrior. Silence. Then, a reluctant nod. Journey to the Dawnguard. He didn't take an army. Didn't take dragons. Didn't take a title. Just his armor. His weapons. And the man he had always been. The journey to Dayspring Canyon was quiet. Almost peaceful. Until he saw it. Fort Dongard. Fort Dongard stood strong, rebuilt, defiant, a place made for one purpose: war against the undead. As he approached, guards raised weapons. "State your business." The Dragonborn stopped. "Calm. I'm here to join." A pause. Then laughter. "Join." Then, the doors opened. A man stepped out. Old. Scarred. Unshaken. Isran. He looked the Dragonborn up and down, studying him. "You don't look like a recruit." The Dragonborn smirked slightly. "I'm not here to sit on a throne." A pause. "I'm here to fight." Isran stepped closer. "Name?" The Dragonborn hesitated. Just for a moment. Then, "Just a warrior." Isran stared at him. Long. Then, a faint grin. "Good. Back where he belongs." Inside Fort Dongard. The Dragonborn felt it immediately. The energy. The purpose. The danger. Weapons lined the walls. Crossbows prepared. Armor ready. Hunters. Real hunters. Not kings. Not gods. Warriors. Isran spoke as they walked. "Vampires are rising again. Organized. Dangerous." The Dragonborn nodded. "Good." Because for the first time in months, he felt alive again. The first hunt. That night, a mission came in. A vampire nest. Not far. Isran looked at him. "You ready?" The Dragonborn tightened his grip on his weapon, a small smile forming. "I never stopped." And as the gates of Fort Dongard opened, the god of peace walked willingly back into war, not as a ruler, not as a god, but as what he truly was: a warrior. The night was still, too still, the kind of silence that only existed when something unnatural waited in the dark. The hunt begins. The gates of Fort Dongard opened, and the hunters stepped out. Torches lit, crossbows loaded, steel ready. At their head, Isran, and beside him, the new recruit. They moved through the narrow paths of Dayspring Canyon, then beyond, into the wilderness. The target, an abandoned ruin. Silent, cold. "They're in there," one Dongard scout whispered. "A lot of them." Isran nodded. "We hit fast. No hesitation." He glanced at the Dragonborn. "Stay close." The Dragonborn simply nodded. The battle begins. The doors were kicked in, and chaos followed. Vampires moved faster than men. Blurs of shadow and red eyes. Contact. Crossbows fired instantly. Bolts pierced through the first wave. But more followed. Steel clashed. Magic exploded. Screams echoed through the ruin. A Dongard soldier was thrown back, slamming into stone. Another was nearly overwhelmed. Until the Dragonborn moved. The first shock. He didn't rush wildly. Didn't panic. He stepped forward. Calm. Controlled. Then, he inhaled. Deep. And unleashed it. Effus Aroda. The entire ruin shook. Vampires were blasted backward. Smashed into walls. Shattered against stone. Silence followed. For half a second, every Dongard soldier froze. What was that? That shout. No way. Isran slowly turned, looking directly at the man he had just recruited. The truth revealed. The Dragonborn didn't stop. Didn't explain. He moved forward again. Into the remaining vampires. This time, fire Yoltor Shul. Flames erupted, engulfing the enemy, turning shadows to ash. A vampire lunged at him, faster than human eyes could track. The Dragonborn caught it mid-motion and drove his blade straight through its chest. Effortless. Another tried to flank him. A burst of lightning from his hand dropped it instantly. The Dawnguard could only watch. That's not just a warrior. That's... Isran finished it. The Dragonborn. The tide turns. The momentum shifted completely. The Dawnguard rallied, fighting harder, faster, because now, they weren't just fighting alone. They were fighting beside a legend. And the vampires knew it. Fear spread among them. Disorganized. Desperate. They tried to flee. The Dragonborn stepped forward one last time. Calm. Unshaken. Esterion Bakuo. Lightning struck like divine judgment. The last of them fell. Aftermath. Silence filled the ruin. Only the sound of breathing. Heavy. Shocked. The Dawnguard slowly lowered their weapons, looking at him, not as a recruit, not as a soldier, but as something far greater. One of them spoke, voice barely steady. You're... The Dragonborn turned, calm as ever. Yeah. Isran stepped forward, studying him again. But this time, with full understanding. You're the High King of Skyrim. A pause. And a god. The Dragonborn shrugged slightly. I told you. Isran let out a short breath. Half disbelief. Half respect. And you came here. To fight vampires. The Dragonborn looked around at the fallen enemies. Then back at Isran. I needed a real fight. A slow grin formed on Isran's face. Then you came to the right place. A new chapter begins. Word would spread. Vast. The Dragonborn. High King. God of Peace. Fighting alongside the Dawnguard. But for now, none of that mattered. Because as the group exited the ruin, another scout approached. Urgent. There's more. Isran looked at the Dragonborn. Hope you're not tired yet. The Dragonborn smirked, gripping his weapon. Not even close. The last echoes of battle faded. Steel lowered. Fire died out. Ash drifted slowly through the ruined hall. The final vampire collapsed and did not rise again. Silence after the storm. No one moved. No one spoke. The Dawnguard stood among the remains, breathing heavy, alive. Because of him, one by one, they turned, all eyes, on the Dragonborn. He stood there calmly, weapon lowered, as if what had just happened was nothing unusual. But to them, it was everything. The question. Isran stepped forward, slow, measured, studying him. There's something I don't understand. The Dragonborn said nothing, just waited. Isran crossed his arms. You're the Dragonborn. High King of Skyrim. A pause. Hey God. The room tightened. Because everyone was thinking it. So why are you here? Silence. Heavy. Why are you on a battlefield? Instead of sitting on your throne. The truth. The Dragonborn looked around the room. At the Dawnguard. At the fallen enemies. At the fight that had just happened. Then he spoke. Because the throne was never really mine. Confusion flickered across a few faces. He continued. It was given to me. A pause. Forced on me, in a way. He looked down at his weapon. Then back up. I didn't earn it the way kings usually do. I didn't want it. Silence. I accepted it because the world needed it. needed unity. He stepped forward slightly. But this, he gestured around them. The battlefield. The fallen vampires. This is where I belong. The words landed hard. I'm not meant to sit on a throne all day. I'm meant to fight. To protect people directly. A pause. Then his voice sharpened. And the war didn't end everything. The Dawnguard listened closely now. Vampires are still out there. Necromancers. Things worse than both. He looked at Isran. And there are still races out there that haven't joined us. A Dawnguard member spoke quietly. The High Elves. The Dragonborn nodded. After the fall of the Thalmor, Somerset Isle signed a peace treaty. A pause. But trust isn't built in a moment. He looked around again. There's still work to do. Real work. Understanding. Silence followed. But it wasn't confusion anymore. It was respect. One of the Dawnguard nodded slowly. He's not just a king. Another finished it. He's still one of us. Isran let out a quiet breath. Then, a small grin formed. Good. He stepped closer. Because we don't need a king here. A pause. We need a warrior. The Dragonborn smirked slightly. Then I'm exactly where I should be. A new purpose. The tension faded. Replaced with something stronger. Trust. The Dawnguard didn't see him as a distant ruler. Or even a god. They saw him as one of them. And as they began to move out of the ruined vampire den, a new understanding settled in. The world may have crowned him. The gods may have raised him. But at his core, he would always be a warrior first. The ruin was cleared. The dead stayed dead. And the Dawnguard moved outside, into the cold night air. The real enemy. Isran stood at the front of the group, looking out into the darkness. This wasn't the problem. The Dragonborn stepped beside him. No. Isran turned. Their leader is. A pause. Lord Harkin. Even the name carried weight. He rules them all. Every vampire nest. Every attack. His voice hardened. And until he's gone, this never ends. A different kind of decision. The Dragonborn didn't hesitate. Then we don't wait. Isran frowned slightly. It's not that simple. We rest. The Dragonborn cut in. Then we march. Silence. We hit them before they spread again. Before more people die. Isran studied him. Long. You're serious. The Dragonborn nodded. I didn't come here to chip away at the problem. A pause. I came to end it. For a moment. Nothing. Then. Isran smiled. Sharp. Determined. Good. The warning. But they were not alone. Hidden in the shadows. A single vampire remained. Watching. Listening. And as the Dawnguard made camp, it fled. Vast. Desperate. To one place. Castle Valkihar. Deep within the cold waters. Castle Valkihar stood silent. Ancient. Dark. The vampire burst into the throne room, falling to its knees. My lord. Lord Harkin turned slowly. Eyes glowing. Cold. Speak. They're coming. A pause. The Dawnguard. And the Dragonborn. Silence. Then. A smile. Cruel. Good. The gathering of darkness. Harkin rose. Power radiating from him. Call them. And they came. Vampires from every corner of Skyrim. Ancient ones. Newly turned. Hunters. Killers. Then. Something worse. Necromancers. Dozens. Hundreds. Bound to Harkon's will. Controlled. Commanded. The castle filled. Dark magic thick in the air. Undead rising. Armies forming. Let them come. The march. At dawn. The Dawnguard moved. Fully armed. Fully ready. No hesitation. No fear. Because this was it. The final battle. The siege of Castle Valkihar. The castle came into view. Dark against the sea. Isrin raised his weapon. This ends today. The Dragonborn stepped forward. Yeah. The gates opened. And war began. The battle. It was chaos. Vampires poured out. Faster than any human. Stronger than any soldier. Necromancers raised the dead. Turning the battlefield into a nightmare. Dawnguard bolts flew. Cutting through the first wave. But it wasn't enough. The Dragonborn stepped forward. And roared. A call. From the sky. They came. His 6 personal dragons. Skyrend. Odaviing. And the others. Roaring as they descended. Fire rained down. Frost shattered undead. Lightning split the battlefield. The tide turned instantly. And then, more arrived. Murok. The Ebony Warrior. Both charging straight into the heart of the enemy. Murok unleashed shouts. Destroying entire groups at once. The Ebony Warrior carved through enemies. Unstoppable. The Dawnguard rallied. Fighting harder than ever. And slowly, the enemy began to fall. The final confrontation. At the top of the castle, Lord Harkon waited. The Dragonborn entered. Alone. You've done well. Harkon's voice echoed. But you cannot win. The Dragonborn said nothing. The fight began. Magic clashed. Shouts echoed. Steel struck. Harkon transformed. Becoming something monstrous. But it didn't matter. The Dragonborn was faster. Stronger. Unstoppable. One final shout. One final strike. Harkon fell. And did not rise again. Victory. The castle fell silent. Outside, the remaining enemies collapsed. Leader gone. Control broken. The war was over. An unexpected companion. As the Dragonborn stepped outside, something approached. Slowly. Cautiously. A death hound. Growling. But not attacking. It lowered its head. Submitting. The Dragonborn knelt slightly. You're done fighting too, huh? The creature stepped closer. And just like that, it chose him. A faint smile formed. All right. The end of the threat. Isrin walked up beside him, looking at the fallen castle. It's over. The Dragonborn nodded. No more vampires. No more necromancers under Harkon. Just silence. And for the first time, even a warrior could feel that something had truly ended. But not everything. Because as he stood there, with dragons above, allies beside him, and a death hound at his side, the world felt quieter. But never empty. The fall of Lord Harkon marked something final. Not just for Skyrim, but for all of Tamriel. Vampires. Gone. Necromancers under his control. Gone. Another darkness erased. Returned to Nova Pax. When the Dragonborn returned to Nova Pax, he did not arrive quietly. 6 dragons circled above. His death hound walked beside him. The gates opened, and the people cheered. Not just for a king, not just for a god, but for a protector. He walked through the city, past soldiers, past families, past the future he had helped build. Then, he took his place once more, on the throne, for only a moment, the order that changed everything. He stood again almost immediately, looking out over his commanders. Delphine, Murrock, the Ebony Warrior, and countless others. His voice was calm, but carried across the entire hall. Send envoys. A pause. To every continent. Murmurs. Allies. Non-allies. Everyone. He stepped forward. I want every leader in Tamriel. Here. Silence. To discuss peace. And a full alliance. A pause. Then, something unexpected. Even the Bandit King. Shock spread through the room. The Dragonborn didn't waver. If Tamriel is going to know peace, then everyone gets a chance to choose it. No one argued. Because at this point, who would? Time skip, the gathering of Tamriel. Months passed. Messengers traveled farther than ever before. Across deserts. Across seas. Across mountains. And one by one, they came. Leaders from Hammerfell. Leaders from Morrowind. Representatives from Somerset Isle. Even distant lands. Some never before seen in Skyrim. And then, unexpected, the Bandit King. Leader of outlaws. Thieves. Pirates. He came too. Because even he had heard the stories. The great meeting of Tamriel. The largest table ever built. Sat at the heart of Nova Pax. Surrounded by kings, generals, house leaders, clan chiefs, mercenary lords, and outlaws. Above them, the gods watched, including Talos and Akatosh. And at the center, the Dragonborn. The discussion begins. At first, tension filled the air. Old grudges, old wars, old hatred. Hammerfell spoke of past betrayals. Morrowind spoke of suffering. Somerset spoke cautiously, still rebuilding trust after the fall of the Thalmor. Even smaller factions spoke, demanding recognition, safety, respect. The Bandit King laughed at first. You expect criminals to just stop. The room tightened. Then the Dragonborn spoke. I expect a choice. Silence. You've seen what happens when the world unites. A pause. You've seen what we can do. The Bandit King didn't smile this time. Yeah. The turning point. Debates lasted hours. Then days. Topics included borders, trade, military cooperation, cultural respect, ending racial discrimination, protection of smaller settlements, laws across regions, shared defense systems. At one point, voices rose. Tension nearly broke the meeting. Then, the Dragonborn stood. No more. Silence fell instantly. We've all lost something. We've all fought each other. A pause. But look where that got us. He gestured outward. To war. To suffering. To near extinction. Then, he lowered his voice. We don't need to be enemies anymore. The final decision. One by one, leaders began to agree. Hammerfell, Morrowind, Somerset, the Empire, Skyrim. Even the Bandit King sat quietly, thinking. Then, he stood. You're serious about this? The Dragonborn nodded. A long pause. Then, fine. Shock spread again. I'll send word. A smirk. To every bandit and pirate. His voice grew serious. Coin isn't worth fighting the whole world. Peace. And just like that, it happened. Agreements signed. Alliances formed. Old grudges laid to rest. For the first time, every major power in Tamriel stood united. No war. No hidden agendas. No looming threats. Just peace. A new era. As the meeting ended, leaders stood together. Not as rivals, but as allies. The gods watched silently, satisfied. And at the center of it all, the Dragonborn. No longer just a warrior. No longer just a king. But the one who had done the impossible. He united Tamriel. And this time, there were no enemies left. Only a future, shared by all.